Hey everyone, what's up? I'm just sitting here and I was trying to go back and respond to some of these comments, and one of these comments just really sparked my brain. This person said, "Did you say something about David Cassidy the other video? He died today." And while I didn't specifically talk about David Cassidy, I did mention the Partridge Family in this video about Kevin Spacey. Let me find it here. I made this video about Kevin Spacey, and it was synced up to the Family Guy episode. There was a Family Guy episode where Stewie Griffin is running through the mall and he says, "Help, help, I've just escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement," right? And that whole episode is basically about how the Griffins on Family Guy, they start a family band and then they go touring around the world, and it's basically a parody of the Partridge Family or the Brady Bunch. I even wrote that in the bottom of my post here. You know, a parody to the Partridge Family, the Brady Bunch. And I thought, how interesting. Now we get the death of David Cassidy, the guy who was on the Partridge Family. And I thought I would go back and take a look at this episode just to see maybe possibly there was something I missed in regards to David Cassidy. And when I re-looked this episode up, let me find it here. When I re-looked this episode up on Wikipedia, they now have written in here a scene where Stewie runs naked through a shopping mall, and he alluded to Kevin Spacey's sexual allegation or misconduct, but they say the original line had Roman Polanski's name in place of Kevin Spacey, but was changed in post-production. Now, how interesting is that? I've been talking about how all of these media stories are interrelated and our media is coded by themes, and it just keeps proving itself over and over. Roman Polanski his wife was Sharon Tate, who got murdered by the Manson family. And then we just got the death of Charles Manson. You know what? It says citation needed. But why in the world would anybody in the world even write this in here about Roman Polanski to begin with? It's because Wikipedia is controlled by, the people who script our media. They control Wikipedia as well. And I have a video somewhere on that where you can't even change stuff on Wikipedia. Even if you list sources, they still change the stuff back. So, think about how that connects to Charles Manson. It's just, unbelievable. I'm talking about how all these media stories are interrelated and connected. If you go back to, I was talking a whole lot about Stand By Me right after Kevin Spacey. I noticed this theme with the film Stand By Me. Let me see if I can find a video. Right here. Because Corey Feldman's been in the news with trying to expose the Hollywood pedophiles. And when Wendy Williams collapsed, we got that story on Halloween. The main guest on her show was Jerry O'Connell, the kid in Stand By Me. And then Rose McGowan was also in the media because she's one of the main people against Harvey Weinstein. And there's a bunch of Marilyn Manson stuff that's connected to her as well, that I've been talking about for the whole month of October. But she's in the same religion, or she was in the same religion. Her dad was a leader of it, called the Children of God, that River Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix and whatever else were in. He supposedly lost his virginity at the age of 4 and stuff like that. And I was like, interesting how it ties into this film Stand By Me. The only person I hadn't seen was Wil Wheaton, and I mentioned possibly it's something to do with Kiefer Sutherland. Then the very next day, I was watching the new Big Bang Theory, and Wil Wheaton was on there, right? What are the odds that Wil Wheaton's on there? I looked it up. Wil Wheaton hadn't been on there for almost 2 seasons of episodes on the Big Bang Theory, and then he's randomly on there just after I mentioned how the media seems to be theming stuff to Stand By Me. And I'll explain why Stand By Me is important here in a second. But then, just after that, we got the Sutherland Springs, Texas church shooting, right? Kiefer Sutherland is the other guy that I mentioned that I hadn't seen. And then we got an article about Wil Wheaton saying that praying didn't help these people or whatever. He made it on Fox News. So he pops up in the mainstream media. And anyway, I looked up David Cassidy. I wondered if David Cassidy was on any episodes of Family Guy, right? And I came here and I looked it up. It says the only episode that he's even mentioned in is a spoof of the Shawshank Redemption on this episode called Three Kings. And he's the poster on Andy Dufresne's wall or whatever. And, you know, if you've ever seen the Shawshank Redemption, he tunnels his way out of jail and behind a poster or whatever. But on the Family Guy spoof, they use David Cassidy. But moral of the story, I looked this episode up called Three Kings, and look what it is. It's a 3-part episode, and they're doing stuff with Stephen King, and it starts off with a parody of the film Stand By Me. You know, what are the odds of that? The only episode David Cassidy even mentioned in Family Guy, it starts off with a spoof of Stand By Me. So I thought I would take the time here, and I went and I watched this episode, Three Kings, and it's really funny. They do completely make jokes about sexual allegations. In the very beginning of the movie, they go through all the characters like the movie Stand By Me, and they call Quagmire, I think Quag Chambers is his name. Interesting they're reading Playboys, possibly nothing, but we just had the death of Hugh Hefner. You know, I don't know, it just makes me think of that. But they call Quagmire Quag Chambers, and they go on to tell us that he had sex for the first time at the age of 5, and he committed his first rape at the age of 10, but back in the 50s, rape was legal. And then at the very end of the Stand By Me segment, they tell, you know, the future of what happened to all the kids when they grew up. And what they say about Quag Chambers is that he grew up to be a famous Hollywood actor, right? The only one out of this spoof here, the only one who is a rapist or whatever else, and he grows up to be a famous Hollywood actor. Just think about that. In regards to Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, this episode even, or, you know, the other episode even has Stewie getting out of can't even think now. Stewie getting out of Kevin Spacey's basement. I also even looked up the song that he's like really famous for, I Think I Love You. When you look this song up, it lists like 13 things that this song is in. I mean, what are the odds out of all the stuff that this song could be in, the odds that on Wikipedia they list Jerry O'Connell sings the song in the movie Scream 2. Jerry O'Connell, the fat kid on Stand By Me. And he does sing this song on Scream 2. You can find it on YouTube. Just search the song Scream 2 and you'll find it. So it's just interesting, you know. Oh, the odds, once again, connected to Stand By Me. There's some weird thing that Stand By Me is important to the way these media articles are themed. Also, just thinking about Stand By Me, I don't know if I mentioned this before, and I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the description. I'll make sure they work too. I copied and pasted them weird, and that's why they haven't been working, and I didn't realize that I had messed this up, but I'm going to fix it. But Stand By Me, all of the stuff with Charles Manson goes back to the helter-skelter theory in regards to the blacks rising up, and that is why, people are kneeling during the national anthem in the NFL, and I've made tons of videos talking about this lately, and just think about it. Stand by me, right? Standing instead of kneeling. Possibly nothing, but, that's how they roll. They use these key words and everything else. And I just wanted to show, too, that the revision where they put this in here about Roman Polanski on Wikipedia, it had to be, the last time that there was a revision was on November 9th. So it had to be before Charles Manson even died. So that, they brought that up just before Charles Manson was even hospitalized or even died. Also on this episode of Family Guy, where they pretend to be the Partridge Family, or they parody the Partridge Family, Jimmy Fallon on Saturday Night Live, he takes Meg's virginity, and we just got the death of Jimmy Fallon's mom on November 4th, right? So, once again, this episode's super synced up to the things that are going on in the media. It even has Joan Rivers comes back from the dead or something like that on there. And last year on Christmas, we got the tweet from Joan Rivers, and people were saying Joan Rivers back from the dead. This episode's super important to a lot of stuff that's been going on this year. When the family on this episode, where the family first starts the band, they started at a prison. So they put on a show at a prison. And think about that with this David Cassidy thing with Andy Dufresne. And on the other episode with David Cassidy, he's in a prison. And think about that in regards to Charles Manson, who died in prison as well. And also, think about what Andy Dufresne does on the Shawshank Redemption. Once he breaks out of prison, he goes to Mexico, which is a big deal ever since Donald Trump. And it's a big deal in regards to kneeling during the national anthem. We just had Marshawn Lynch, who stood for the Mexican national anthem, but not for the American one. So, lots of interrelated events going on in the media. As far as gematria goes, I'll show you some gematria here that's super connected as well. Gematria, if you don't know, is the practice of coding numbers into words that is used every single day of these media articles as well. You know, and I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. If you're new and still listening, I'll leave 2 links actually. You can check them out and check out all the other channels I leave links to. And I'll leave a link to this gematria calculator that you don't have to do the math by hand or in your head. It does it for you. But in regards to the gematria here, so the song that they sing on this Family Guy episode is called Gonna Buy Me a Rainbow, that equals 83. Kevin Spacey Fowler equals 83. We just had the death of Charles Manson at the age of 83. The word murder equals 83. And he was on the American Horror Story Cult. The 83rd episode was based loosely on Charles Manson. And I showed how a bunch of stuff to the United States flag is synced up to 83. And we got the death of the ex-Cowboy player, Terry Glenn, who wore number 83. He died 8 months and 3 days after his birthday, which was the day after Charles Manson died. And he even died in Irving, Texas. Irving equals 83. The word football equals 83. Synced up to Charles Manson, who died at the age of 83. Also, Keith Partridge. In Gematria, that's what David Cassidy plays on the Partridge Family, his character. That equals 83. Oh man, my computer ran out of space, but Keith Partridge equals 83. Just, if you write just Partridge Family, don't put the in front of it, it equals 83. And a lot of these also equal 88, which is interesting because that's what everything to do with the national anthem is all about. Trump equals 88, Colin Kaepernick equals 88, the Star Spangled Banner equals 88, it was inspired by the Great Garrison flag that equals 88, the word kneel equals 88, tons of 88 stuff. So interesting, these people have gematria of 83 and 88. See my other videos, there's just lots of other information going on with it. David Cassidy even died 223 days after his birthday. And if you read out the Star Spangled Banner in Gematria the big way, we'll show you really quick. The Star Spangled Banner, it equals 223. 88 the small way, the big way 223, right? He dies 223 days after his birthday. Also, his name, David Cassidy, equals 48. Show you that really quick here. David Cassidy equals 48, and 223 is the 48th prime number. So 223 days after his birthday, the 48th prime. His name equals 48. And there was a bunch of stuff I was talking about in the Marilyn or Charles Manson video that was all synced up to the number 48. Marilyn Manson is even 48 years old. Donald Trump equals 48. The word wall equals 48. You know, the guy who wants to build the wall and won the election on the anniversary of the Berlin Wall falling down. But hopefully I got the point across here. You know, all of these media stories are interrelated. There's definitely something going on with the film Stand By Me. You know, who knows what the true point of the film Stand By Me, but it's very, very obvious they're using this film to, you know, code our media, mainstream media with. One last thing before I end the video. All summer I was talking about a twin theme, and I'm still seeing the twin theme every now and then. And on that Stand By Me episode of Family Guy, they even joke about Jerry O'Connell growing up to marry Rebecca Romaine, right? And when you look him up, so he did marry her, but when you look him up, she was pregnant and they have twin girls, right? So he even has twin kids. One of them's named after Dolly Parton, who was important to a bunch of stuff last year in regards to the fire symbolism. And then the other one's named Charlie, right? Just think about that in regards to Prince Charles that I've talked about a lot, and also Charlie Manson. Charlie Sheen is connected to all the Stand By Me stuff because Corey Haim was supposed to be in that movie, but instead took the part of Lucas. And then we just got the story about Corey Feldman saying that Charlie Sheen molested Corey Haim on the set of Lucas. So, we'll leave it at that. Hopefully I got my point across. Have a good one. Peace.